So do you think Operation Blue Star was a blunder? Is there anything that haunts you? जब मैंने देखा और पढ़ा और इमेजेस देखी तो मुझे तो यकीन नहीं हुआ कि ये एक्चुअली हुआ भी है.
The nation lost its prime minister. Mentalist दूसरे के जी 3,000-4,000 आदमी अंदर मर गया.
गोल्डन टेम्पल के अंदर से टैंक्स भेजे गए. A bullet went through the Guru Granth Sahib.
इसके साथ एक एलिमेंट आ गया रिलीजियस. वायलेंस इन पंजाब स्टार्टेड. नॉन-सिख्स भी थे, हिंदूज भी थे.
You were not even allowed to make a call. There's obviously बहुत debate है इस चीज़ पे कि खालिस्तान की कॉल थी नहीं थी. Very eerily similar to what is happening today with Amritpal Singh. Bhindrawale and his bodyguards must have been there. That is where they died.
He never demanded Khalistan. If government of India wants to give me Khalistan, I will not say no. They were weaponized by Pakistan.
और अकाल तख्त तो पूरा उड़ा दिया.
Every Punjabi wants to be a leader.
The first move of the army and they enter into the Golden Temple is they send one. वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ द सिलेबस ऑफ लाइफ. इस कंट्री का एक बहुत डार्क चैप्टर, एक ऐसा चैप्टर जब कंट्री की स्प्लिंटरिंग और कंट्री के टुकड़े होने की एक्चुअल संभावना थी, वो हुआ पंजाब में. वो हुआ पर्टिकुलरली 5 जून 1984 को, जब ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार लॉन्च हुआ. ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार में आर्मी को डिप्लॉय करा गया गोल्डन टेम्पल में, अमृतसर में. टैंक्स भेजे गए, बहुत सारे लोगों की जान गई. At least around, estimates vary, but at least around 1,000 people died in that operation. The person in the middle of that conflict, the person on the ground, the person at the eye of the storm, was the Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar, a young IAS officer of that time. That young IAS officer has now retired after many years, and he has written a definitive account of what actually happened. As recent as a few years ago, I am talking of none other than Mr. Ramesh Inder Singh. I have read this book that he has written just now in detail. I made notes out of it and I'm going to ask him deep questions about it. Not only that, my guest today, Ramesh Inder Singh ji, is no ordinary person. He is a Padma Shri awardee. He was the Chief Secretary of Punjab. He was the Chief Information Commissioner. Wide experienced, very, very seasoned IAS officer. One of those people who has rubbed shoulders with prime ministers, presidents since so long that it must have become a matter of everyday affair for him. To have him sit across from me in this room and to ask him questions about that day, about that event, about the aftermath of that event, where thousands and thousands of more people lost their lives in the militancy of Punjab, and that dark chapter that was written that can never be erased, is a privilege. I will try my best to do justice to all the sentiments involved, to all the people involved, to all the stakeholders involved, and I'll try to make the best out of it and of his time with me. Without further ado, let us start with the conversation. Let's get into it. But before I do, I want to request you to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, because if you do so, number one, you get intimately connected to us, and number two, it does boost our morale, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Sir, welcome to the podcast and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor and a privilege to be speaking with you and to be speaking to somebody who has had direct experience. हमारी कंट्री के इतने मोमेंटस मोमेंट्स के आप बिल्कुल बीच में थे. You were in the eye of the storm, as they say. You were posted as Deputy Commissioner, Amritsar, just a few days before Operation Blue Star was conducted. And sir, I've been through your book. Of course, there's a lot of history behind the writing of this book. आपने कहा था कि उस वक्त आप लिख नहीं पाए, बट आपके कॉन्शियस में यू कंपेल्ड यू टू राइट दिस बुक. सर, इफ़ आई मे से सो, मैंने जब इसके बारे में पढ़ा डिटेल में, ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार के बारे में, तो इट हैपेंड बिफोर आई वाज बॉर्न. एंड जब मैंने देखा और पढ़ा और इमेजेस देखी तो मुझे तो यकीन नहीं हुआ कि ये एक्चुअली हुआ भी है. सर, ये कितनी सेवेरिटी का इवेंट था हमारे देश की हिस्ट्री में या दुनिया की हिस्ट्री में भी, वो शायद सर लोगों को उतना नहीं पता है. सर, व्हाट इज़ दिस मैग्नीट्यूड and how can we convey this magnitude to the audience?
देखिए, ऐसे है कि मैं तो ये कहूँगा कि इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया में पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस, so far as your internal events are concerned, probably it was the most critical happening in terms of the kind of momentum and ethno-national movement जो इसने जनरेट की, द वायलेंस हुई, जो आदमियों कितने आदमी मरे. आप ये देखिए ना कि अपार्ट फ्रॉम ऑफ कोर्स आर्मी एंटरिंग गोल्डन टेम्पल और जो वहाँ पे डेथ्स हुई, द नेशन लॉस्ट इट्स प्राइम मिनिस्टर, Punjab lost its chief minister. You had a former chief of army staff killed, and then hundreds and hundreds of innocent people who died. Of course, militants also died, So, and the kind of, I would say, chaos and turmoil it created, not only in Punjab, because it spilled over all over, जो है. And even in terms of, I would say, a division in the society it generated,
Sir.
So all those, if you put together, I would say it was the most monumental happenings in the independent India.
So I think, agreed. It's the closest India has ever been to actually splintering.
Splintering. In fact, the nation was in war with itself, I would say.
ऑलमोस्ट सिविल वॉर टाइप ही था सर. एक तो
जी.
पंजाब में तो था ही.
नहीं, सिविल वॉर तो नहीं थी, बट I mean, it was a war within the nation, I would say.
To the extent, sir, that some of the facts that I want to relay are so striking that it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
Sir, सबसे पहला fact तो sir, there are narratives and there are differences in the opinions, and I know you've written a chapter on this. Number of people who died in Operation Blue Star, at least 1,000. Is that correct?
देखिए, एग्जैक्ट फिगर जो मैंने दी है,
सर,
if you take all views जो है, there are extreme views of fundamentalists who say कि जी 3,000 4,000 आदमी अंदर मर गया. Then there is one microscopic, I would say, sponsored view. They project themselves as the official view, which says only 200-300 people died. Now, I have reconciled all these based on evidence, and I have quoted the sources, including the cremation ground figures, including the relief granted by the SGPC post Blue Star to the families of those killed. अंदर जो है दरबार साहब के तकरीबन 717 के करीब डेड बॉडीज काउंट हुई, बट बिकॉज देयर वर डेथ्स आउटसाइड गोल्डन टेम्पल कम्प्लेक्स आल्सो, द bullets, they don't know the boundaries. When you fire a bullet, it goes anywhere. तो टोटल डेथ्स जो है वो 800 के नीचे नीचे ही थी.
सर, बट आई थिंक ये नंबर सिविलियन साइड का है, आर्मी पर्सनल का भी डिस्प्यूटेड है.
आर्मी पर्सनल का जो है नंबर, उसमें भी बड़ा कन्फ्लिक्ट है. मेजर जनरल के.एस. ब्राड़ जो लोकल कमांडर थे उस समय ने, उनकी जो उन्होंने भी किताब लिखी है, उसमें उन्होंने फिगर्स बहुत कम दी हैं.
सर, जस्ट टू पुट इट इनटू पर्सपेक्टिव, इस चीज़ की मैग्नीट्यूड जिसकी मैं बात कर रहा था, जो मैं जताना चाहता हूँ, तो लगभग 1,000 के आसपास तो लोग गोल्डन टेम्पल के अंदर,
जी, अंदर एंड पेरिफेरी, 2-3 दिन में.
गोल्डन टेम्पल के अंदर सर टैंक्स भेजे गए. गोल्डन टेम्पल के अंदर अकाल तख्त को मोर और लेस डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया, बॉम्बार्डिंग कर करके, शेलिंग कर करके. आप सर जब अंदर गए आफ्टर ब्लू स्टार, तो आपने बताया है कि देयर वर डेड बॉडीज फ्लोटिंग इन द सरोवर, देयर वर डेड बॉडीज रॉटिंग अवे, डिकम्पोजिंग, जिनको वहाँ से हटाना मतलब इट वॉज अ ट्रबलसम टास्क इन इटसेल्फ. दैट डजंट इवन स्टार्ट टू इंक्लूड द सैक्रिलेज दैट वाज डन टू द होलीएस्ट ऑफ द श्राइन्स ऑफ द सिक्स, हरमिंदर साहब. तो उसमें सर जो एक पैसेज है यहाँ पर, अ बुलेट वेंट थ्रू द गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब, अ बुलेट हिट अ रागी इनसाइड द होलीएस्ट इन द सैंक्टम सैंक्टोरम. सर, ये इतनी बड़ी मैग्नीट्यूड का आप शडर टू इमेजिन, अगर इस टाइप का कुछ आज हो जाए तो क्या होगा इस देश में.
देखिए, दोज वर वेरी वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेट हैपनिंग्स जो है, दैट्स व्हाई इट शुक द नेशन जो है. एंड इसका क्रिटिसिज्म जो है अब फौज की तरफ से भी, द वे ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार वाज कंडक्टेड, वो आया है. और उसमें द रिसेंट वन टू स्पीक एंड हु हैज रिटन इन हिज बुक आल्सो इज फॉर्मर चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ जनरल वी.के. सिंह.
यस सर,
जो यूनियन मिनिस्टर भी थे अभी लास्ट कैबिनेट में, पहली और दूसरी गवर्नमेंट मोदी जी की, उसके मंत्री थे वो
जी.
तो उन्होंने भी लिखा है कि इट वाज वेरी बैडली प्लान्ड और गलत तरीके से हुआ. जनरल हून का मैंने आपको नाम दिया है जो है, उन्होंने भी इनफैक्ट ही हैज यूज्ड वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग लैंग्वेज टू क्रिटिसाइज. देन जनरल सिन्हा थे एक लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल, who later on became a lieutenant governor also, बिहार के थे वो. उन्होंने भी बहुत क्रिटिसाइज किया है कि the way it was not properly planned and properly executed. देखिए, एक तो वन हैज़ टू रिकॉग्नाइज एंड एक्सेप्ट दिस फैक्ट कि गोल्डन टेम्पल में फोर्टिफिकेशन ऑफ वेपन्स हुई, यू सी, मोर्चे बनाए उन्होंने जो है। अब उनको कैसे डील किया जाए उस सिचुएशन को, पहली बात तो ये आ जाती है कि वेपन्स अंदर अलाउ कैसे हुए जाने। आफ्टर ऑल वेपन जो है इज़ नॉट समथिंग विच कैन बी वेरी इजीली स्मगल्ड। इट्स नॉट ए, if you're carrying an LMG, you can't hide it under your shirt.
सर मैंने नोट किया, आपने बुक में लिखा है कि कार सेवा के ट्रक्स
मैं वही
कॉन्स्टेंटली।
कह रहा हूँ ना, तो उसमें मतलब दिस इज वन एस्पेक्ट व्हाई द सिचुएशन वाज अलाउड टू ड्रिफ्ट। देखिए, इसमें इट्स, मैंने जैसे आपसे इनफॉर्मल जब आपसे बात कर रहे थे तब भी मैंने कहा है कि ये जो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर सिचुएशंस होती है ना, एक तो एक स्ट्रे इंसिडेंट हो गया, आपने डील कर लिया, जहाँ पर एक लार्जर सेंटिमेंट इन्वॉल्व हो जाए, सोसाइटी इन्वॉल्व हो जाए, उसको यू हैव टू टैकल इट इन ए लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग इन ए वेरी टैक्टफुल मैनर। Violation of law has to be dealt with firmly, but while dealing with the legal issues firmly and prosecuting, good governance is very important so that there are no excesses, because excesses create, it has its own dynamism. Yes. You know, there is a recoil and then it bounces back जो है। More important equally is कि उसको आप साइकोलॉजिकली जो है उन इश्यूज को एड्रेस करो जो है। अब पंजाब के केस में जो आपने ब्लू स्टार की बात की, देर वॉज ए इंटरट्वाइनिंग ऑफ मिलिटेंसी एंड पंजाब इश्यूज, लेट्स पुट इट दिस वे। देर वर सम डिमांड्स, दीज इंक्लूडेड वेरी इनॉक्वस डिमांड्स लाइक कि आप दरबार साहब से, गोल्डन टेम्पल से गुरबानी की टेलीकास्ट करो। उस टाइम यू नो वी डिडंट हैव प्राइवेट चैनल्स, या ट्रेन का नाम गोल्डन टेम्पल रख दो, या वॉल्ड सिटी को आप होली सिटी डिक्लेयर करके वहाँ मीट और तंबाकू की जो है सेल बैन कर दो। देन देर वर लिटिल मोर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड इश्यूज ऑफ फेडरलिज्म, विच नॉट ओनली द अकाली दल वाज आस्किंग, इवन तमिलनाडु में भी है, वेस्ट बंगाल में उस समय की जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज थी, लेफ्टिस्ट थे, दे वर ऑल डिमांडिंग द सेम थिंग। बट उन चीज़ों को कई बार ब्रांड कर दिया गया कि एंटी नेशनल है।
सर इफ आई मे आस्क, एंटी नेशनल और सेपरेटिस्ट में सर कितना डिफरेंस है? ग्रे एरिया है सर।
नहीं, देखिए, सेपरेटिज्म इज कि आप देश को तोड़ देना चाहते हैं। सेपरेटिज्म इज यू आर डिमांडिंग सिसेशन जो है। एंटी नेशनल इज ए टर्म विच यू कैन यूज फॉर एनीथिंग, इवन ए क्राइम, किलिंग इज एंटी नेशनल। यू सी, व्हेन यू कमिट लेट्स से मर्डर, इट इज एंटी नेशनल, यू आर वायलेटिंग द लॉ ऑफ द लैंड। तो वो जो फेडरलिज्म की डिमांड थी, आज भी हैं। तमिलनाडु की पार्टीज हैव नॉट गिवन अप दोज डिमांड्स, बंगाल हैज नॉट गिवन अप दो डिमांड। इन फैक्ट देयर इज ए ग्रेटर डिमांड ऑफ ऑनरिंग फेडरलिज्म। इवन जीएसटी इज नाउ बीइंग टॉक्ड अबाउट कि जी ये एक आपने सेंट्रलाइजेशन कर रही है, यू आर टेकिंग अवे द पावर्स ऑफ द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट। एंड ये एक पोलिटिकल पार्टी नहीं, सारी पोलिटिकल पार्टीज विच आर नॉट इन पावर इन द सेंटर विल आर टॉकिंग इन दिस टर्म। तो वो इशू थे, कुछ इंटर स्टेट इशूज थे पंजाब के, जैसे वाटर डिस्प्यूट है या टेरिटोरियल इशूज हैं। तो ये डिमांड्स जो हैं चली आ रही थी पुरानी, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम लेट्स से 78, 79 एंड उस टाइम से। इसके साथ एक रिलीजियस इशू जो था वो टैग हो गया, दैट वाज द निरंकारी अकाली क्लैश। नाउ इट वाज ए प्योर सिंपल रिलीजियस इशू विच वाज अगेन अलाउड टू बिकॉज ऑफ मिस हैंडलिंग गो आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल। पंजाब प्रॉब्लम जो शुरू हुई वो एक तो डायमेंशन मैंने आपको पॉलिटिकल डायमेंशन दे दी कि अकाली दल हैड लॉन्च्ड ए मोर्चा कि हमारी ये डिमांड्स को आप पूरा करो, पंजाब की डिमांड्स हैं। And most of these, barring 2 or 3 like telecast of Gurbani from temple या holy city declare करना या railway गाड़ी को नाम देना, they were non-religious demands। जैसे पानी की डिमांड है, you see, या लैंग्वेज की डिमांड है, या टेरिटरी की डिमांड है, या फेडरलिज्म की डिमांड है। they were secular and supported by even non-अकाली parties जो है। So much so, at one stage, even BJP supported some of these demands at that time. communists were also supporting that demand. But when the Akali Dal shifted their morcha to Golden Temple premises, then these parties withdrew.
Okay.
You see, so even so secular demands जो थी, they acquired a religious tinge because the center of the agitation shifted to Golden Temple. इसके साथ एक एलिमेंट आ गया रिलीजियस उस समय, वो मैंने आपको बताया निरंकारी क्लैश का. Violence in Punjab started as a retaliation to the clash between Nirankaris and Akalis. The first killings were of the Nirankaris. उसमें सिख भी थे निरंकारी, बिकॉज निरंकारीज तो हर कम्युनिटी से आते हैं. नॉन सिख्स भी थे, हिंदूज भी थे. एंड सम ऑफ दीज ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस जैसे उस समय बब्बर खालसा था या अखंड कीर्तनी जथा था, in their interviews they have said that we have killed 13 Nirankaris, but the clash was limited to Nirankaris. They were projected and viewed as violating the Sikhs. They were sacrilegious towards Sikhism, let's put it this way. Over a period of time, पहली बार जो वायलेंस हुई, इनोसेंट निरंकारी भी इनोसेंट थे, आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट. आप किसी जस्ट यू आर किलिंग समवन बिकॉज ही इज ए निरंकारी इज ऑल्सो ए क्राइम. जो है पहली बार जब संत जरनैल सिंह भिंडरावाला को उन्होंने पकड़ा पुलिस ने, जो है उसके रिएक्शन में दीज पीपल हु वर किलिंग निरंकारीज, दे स्टार्टेड किलिंग इनोसेंट पीपल इन द बाजार्स. एक जलंधर में शूट आउट हुआ, एक तरनतारन में हुआ, indiscriminating firing in the bazaar. And because the state failed to effectively tackle those people, उनका नंबर लार्ज नहीं था. You see, I mean 30, 40, 50 से ज़्यादा नंबर नहीं था जो weapon wielding आदमी थे. So I would say it was a lack of good governance in Punjab, lack of effective enforcement of law and order, a failure of the administration, which slowly accelerated into this. You see, पंजाब में हिंदू सिख बिल्कुल एक हैं जो है, तो वो डिवाइड लाने के लिए आई वुड से पाकिस्तान ने गाइड किया या किसने किया, दे स्टार्टेड विद ए सोसाइटी टेकिंग मेजर्स जिससे सोसाइटी में डिवीजन आ जाए. और वो कैसे हुआ कि गोल्डन टेम्पल में बीड़ी का पैकेट घेर दिया, मंदिर में गाय की पूंछ घेर दी. यू सी दीज काइंड ऑफ इंसिडेंट जिससे लोग भड़कते हैं और भड़क के वो सड़क पे आते हैं जुलूस लगाने के लिए. सो दे ट्राई टू प्रोवोक द टू कम्युनिटीज अगेंस्ट ईच अदर by bringing, and then parallelly the violence started and slowly it drifted to killing of the innocent people, mass killing, जैसे बस से निकाल के हिंदुओं को मार दिया जो है. तो उसका इस तरह से हुआ डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द मूवमेंट. देन दे स्टार्टेड फोर्टिफाइंग द गोल्डन टेम्पल जो है. तो अगर इसको पहली बात थी पोलिटिकली टैकल करना बहुत ज़रूरी था कि जो डिमांड्स जो जिसकी वजह से मोर्चा लगा, और वही बाद में जाके राजीव गांधी लॉन्गोवाल जो अकॉर्ड हुआ उसमें ये सारे इश्यूज जो है उन्होंने पोलिटिकली एड्रेस किए. पहले उसी फेडरलिज्म को वो एंटी नेशनल कहते थे, है जी, कि एंटी नेशनल है. फिर राजीव लॉन्गोवाल अकॉर्ड के अंदर वही फेडरलिज्म को जस्टिस सरकारिया जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज थे, वो सेंटर स्टेट रिलेशनशिप के ऊपर उनको बनाया गया था. द डिमांड्स ऑफ अकालीज वर रेफर्ड टू देम.
सर, बट आपको क्या ऐसा लगता है कि मिसेस इंदिरा गांधी की पर्सनालिटी की वजह से वो नहीं हुआ पहले जो बाद में हो सकता, बाद में हुआ फिर फाइनली?
पर्सनली इफ यू आस्क माय व्यू, यस आई वुड से कि इट वाज व्यूड बाय हर एज ए स्ट्रगल टू dethrone कांग्रेस इन पंजाब.
Okay.
I mean, she was not against Sikhs as such, but it was a political struggle of Congress Akalis to gain power.
So could it have been just pure ego?
Must be. वैसे तो कोट किया उनका जो है पोस्ट ब्लू स्टार
इंटरव्यू
आस्क्ड बीबीसी के इंटरव्यू को कोट किया मैंने.
I have actually even marked that section.
हाँ जी, कि डू यू थिंक देयर वाज नो अदर वे टू हैंडल इट.
Yes. She said I should have done it sooner.
हाँ. तो मतलब मेरा कहना है कि देखिए, वैसे आप वायलेंस को डील कर रहे हो, इफेक्टिवली डील करो, बट जहाँ पे एक कम्युनिटी का सेंटिमेंट इन्वॉल्व हो जाए, यू शुड ट्राई एंड सेग्रीगेट द इश्यूज. सेंटिमेंटल इश्यूज को आप साइकोलॉजिकली डील करो, वायलेंस को आप विद इफेक्टिव फोर्स यूज करो.
Sir, then, if with your permission, you go on to say on another
Please.
page, you say, this is about how the army, you say, stifled your communication. मतलब आप district collector थे sir, but आपको मतलब you were not even allowed to make a call.
Yes, that's a fact. I couldn't talk to my own home secretary because the telephone exchange was taken over by the army and all civilian telephones were disconnected. I couldn't talk to my officers. I couldn't talk to my police counterpart, SSP. you know.
Civil administration तो एकदम ही sidelined.
Civil line was virtually defunct. It was a virtual takeover of the
City.
of the, at least in Amritsar district it was so. It may not have happened in other districts because the situation there was a different जो है. From 3rd June to till about 7th 8th, I mean that was the kind of a scenario.
Sir, and so sir, do you think this sort of a stifling of the civil administration is seen anywhere in recent times? Or is it completely extreme?
The army has also over a period of time, I would say, with experience become more evolved. So a concept of joint command has been developed in India, where civil administration, in fact, Punjab में भी इन दिनों के बाद जो है, we worked out a arrangement where we were meeting in Amritsar daily with the army, the civil administration, and working out and coordinating. But initial those 3-4-5 दिन जो थे, that was the situation.
But sir, you're supposed to be the most senior person in the district, on the ground, the government, and you had absolutely no control or power at all at that time.
ऐसे है, मैं आपको explain कर दूं because let's not make a very sweeping statement. 2 चीज़ें हुई थी. एक तो था Disturbed Areas Act, जो it still is a law.
Right.
Second law है Armed Forces Special Powers Act.
That was also
अब वो भी अभी है. कई बार आप सुनते हैं पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडिया में कि इसको विड्रॉ करना चाहिए. जहाँ पे डिस्टर्ब्ड एरियाज एक्ट की डिक्लेरेशन हो जाए और वो पंजाब और चंडीगढ़ सारा डिक्लेयर कर दिया गया था एंड स्पेशल आर्म्ड फोर्सेस पावर को इन्फोर्स कर दिया जाए, सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस गेट पावर independent of the executive magistracy to act of their own. They don't need direction. You see, normal आपकी जो CRPC अब तो वो भी लॉ थोड़ा डिफरेंट हो गया है रिसेंट अमेंडमेंट्स में, नए लॉ में. वो है कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट रिक्विजिशन करेगा एंड आर्मी विल नॉट रिजॉर्ट टू फायरिंग अनलेस इट टेक्स द अप्रूवल ऑफ द मजिस्ट्रेट. एंड नॉर्मल होता है कि आर्मी की टुकड़ी के साथ मजिस्ट्रेट जाता है. बट इन अंडर दीज 2 लॉज जो मैंने आपको मेंशन किए हैं, स्पेशल आर्म्ड फोर्सेस एक्ट, आर्मी एंड अदर सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस गेट independent power. They take their orders from their own command.
Got it.
They can search, they can seize, they can fire, they can kill, depending upon the situation.
Sir, but can they block out your communication as district magistrate?
No, it should not have happened. It should not have happened because civil administration had not been superseded. You see,
it seems so completely sidelined.
Yes, superseded. I would say it became defunct. जो है. For at least few days जो है. That is why I am telling you कि now over a period of time हमारे पंजाब में भी फिर joint committees बन गई थी, district level पे, state level पे coordination committee थी जो है. अब जो है concept of joint command has come where at the state level, district level, the civil and military joint actions होते हैं. Army has also now given instructions कि आप troops को जहाँ, you see, where there is let's say a successionist movement and purely it's a armed clash, वो situation different है जो है. But normally a magistrate or police party should accompany the army troops,
right.
So that there should be a civil face to army operations.
Yes.
That civil face is very essential for sending the right signal to the local population.
And so then obviously comes the main protagonist, which is Sant Bhindrawale. And there is obviously बहुत debate है इस चीज़ पे कि खालिस्तान की कॉल थी नहीं थी, उन्होंने मांगा नहीं मांगा, उनका अंदर का क्या था, वो चाहते थे खुद कि नहीं चाहते थे. तो सर आपका क्या है इस पे ओपिनियन?
देखिए, पब्लिकली एटलीस्ट ही नेवर डिमांडेड खालिस्तान जो है. द मैक्सिमम ही सेड, from my research I could find two statements. One was, probably he said more than once this statement, कि if government of India wants to give me Khalistan, I will not say no. You know, I'm not neither asking, but if they want to give me, I will not say no.
It sounds
You know,
Yeah.
double play with the words. You know, जो है. The second statement he made was that in case army enters Golden Temple, it will lay the foundation of Khalistan.
which turned out to be true.
अब देखिए, इसमें ऐसे है, you see, when there is a widespread militancy in the state, इसमें बड़े heterogeneous element आ जाते हैं. ये पंजाब की जो militancy थी, it was not a monolithic organization. अगर आप देखें भिंडरावाले के बाद भी जो है 17 के 18 militant organizations थी which were working in Punjab. One or two of them started their militant operations
Sir.
with a religious base, like Babbar Khalsa, for example. You know, या आनंद कीर्तनी जत्था जो था, against the Nirankaris. The other organizations were mostly, you know, funded by foreign agencies, by Pakistan. They were weaponized by Pakistan. एक फसाड क्रिएट करने के लिए बैंक लूटिंग स्टार्टेड, यू नो, जो है ताकि लगे कि दे आर काइंड ऑफ फंडिंग देयर ओन मूवमेंट.
अच्छा.
तो पंजाब में बैंक्स बड़े लूटे गए उन दोनों के अंदर जो है. देन ड्रग जो है, इनफैक्ट अबाउट 3 years बैक a book has been published in Pakistan, जो है, by a professor who is probably based abroad in some university. Punjab Borders, अब exact नाम मुझे उसका याद नहीं आ रहा. It's published by Oxford or Cambridge, one of those publishing houses. He has clearly mentioned how ISI created safe houses along the international border, you know, where these boys would be escorted, they'll be screened, you know, and then those found with willpower and physical fitness, then they'll take them over for training, you know. And how it was correlated to the drug mafia. The drug mafia was involved. They were using this drug-generated money to fund the movement also. Because you see, when you create these kind of operations, the पहला principle जो है वो ये है कि आपकी involvement की it should not seem obvious.
Naturally.
You know, to the other nation. जैसे दुनिया के हर nations जो है एक दूसरे के साथ करते रहते हैं, नॉन वायलेंट तो चलता ही रहता है. तो पाकिस्तान ऑल्सो वांटेड टू क्रिएट दिस फॉल्स इमेज कि वी आर नॉट फंडिंग इट, दिस सेल्फ फाइनेंस्ड, यू नो, बैंकों की लूटिंग होगी, ड्रग्स की होगी जो है. बट द फैक्ट रिमेन्स दैट पाकिस्तान bankrolled this movement, if I may use this expression, you know, trained the boys, they opened training camps जो है all over जो है, and they invited the leaders of the movement.
And sir, General Singh Bhindrawale was, you say, extremely iron-willed, unbelievably
Yes.
aggressive,
Exactly.
and absolutely uncompromising, but a puritanical person.
Very, yes. That was the base which on which he tried to win over the Sikh masses. You see his campaigns कि आप नशा छोड़ो, शराब मत पियो, you know, remember God, Amrit छको. You know, it was a religious preachings, you know, and purity of life, which appealed to common man.
Very eerily similar to what is happening today with Amritpal Singh.
Amritpal Singh, yes.
But we will circle around to that, sir.
Yeah.
But first, let me come to that other circle, which is the परिक्रमा
जी.
of the Golden Temple. तो जब भी decision हुआ, कुछ announcements वगैरह हुए, उसके बाद the first move of the army and the enter into the Golden Temple is they send one para SF unit, special forces, which are obviously very deadly people. They are the deadliest. They send them in and they go परिक्रमा के आसपास जाते हैं वो, और उनको कोई resistance नहीं मिलती, but it turns out to be a trap. फिर उनके पास चारों तरफ से गोलियों की बौछार होती है and they suffer heavy casualties. They come out. So far, so good, sir. And then they decide that they'll send in an armored vehicle. armored vehicle goes in. There are two versions now. Some people say कि उसके टायर
Anyway, the fact is that the tires were burst. How they were burst is a separate issue.
ठीक है, RPG, no RPG.
हाँ.
And then the tanks were sent in. The tanks aimed at the minarets, जो कि vantage points रहे होंगे snipers के लिए या LMG के लिए, but उसके बाद सीधा अकाल तख्त पे, और अकाल तख्त को पूरा उड़ा दिया. और उसके अंदर then Bhindrawale and his bodyguards were there, must have been there. That is where they died. And in this process, a lot of people died. And this whole thing happened around in a 48-hour period.
No, not even 48 hours.
36.
I would say the army went in around 10 o'clock in the night.
Yes.
And by early morning, tanks were brought in.
So the early morning tanks were brought in. Right. And so then, what was the time you went in for the first time
No,
after
I
BlueStar?
went in on 7th.
Uh-huh. So that's
After, by that time, the operation was over.
Over.
Operation was over on 6th morning itself.
but ठीक है. तो मतलब कोई डेड बॉडीज रिमूव वगैरह नहीं करी गई?
नहीं, हो गई थी, शुरू हो गई थी. You know what you have to take it in context is कि गोल्डन टेम्पल की पेरिफेरी को सील कर दिया गया था स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम 3rd. There was no movement. In fact, there was exchange of fire even on 1st between CRPF and BSF जो है. तो deaths would have started occurring from 3rd night जो है. और जून के महीने में if somebody is hit by a bullet, bleeds to death, and then you remove the body on 6th night or 7th morning, so it's natural decay which creates that handling a dead body becomes very difficult. The sheer sight, agony, the smell, all that. It's a very.
I want to ask you something which I don't know if it's included. I don't know if you want to include it. But you go inside the Golden Temple. What do you see? What happens?
No, you see, the entire complex was because even on the Golden Temple has a road which divides the temple part from the administrative and रेजिडेंशियल पार्ट सराइज वगैरह जो है तो वहाँ भी डेथ्स हुई हैं इस तरफ भी डेथ्स हुई थी आई हैव यूज्ड द वर्ड कि इट वाज लाइक यू सी इन द मूवीज दोज वर्ल्ड वॉर मूवीज द टाउन्स in decay. It presented that kind of a scenario. Very sad, unfortunate, but let's not dwell on that because I would not. Why I am saying let's not dwell on it because it is now history and well documented.
Right. So, do you think Operation Blue Star was a blunder?
Well, the way it was executed, yes, it was a blunder.
Do you think it could have been completely avoided? Was that even a
It could
possibility?
have been avoided. It could have been avoided. Whether at least attempt could have been made to avoid it. Let's put it this way.
Sir, if we come to the aftermath.
जी.
आफ्टरमैथ तो सर इसका बहुत साल चला. मिलिटेंसी इतनी पंजाब में बढ़ गई जितने उतने लोग मनी मरे उतने हर साल मरने लगे
जी.
पंजाब में. और ऑब्वियसली जो असैसिनेशंस, स्ट्रिंग ऑफ असैसिनेशंस, प्राइम मिनिस्टर मिसेस इंदिरा गांधी वाज assassinated, the army chief, former army chief
जनरल
वैद्य वाज assassinated. तो सर ये तो बहुत बड़े बड़े assassinations हैं
जी जी.
that they were able to inflict after the leader had been killed.
Very true.
Sir, did you not feel a certain threat to you because book में लिखा है कि militancy के time पे even the SSP was shot and killed.
नहीं, देखिए militants were targeting जो है, so that threat is always there. I mean उसमें तो कोई दो point of view ही नहीं है कि threat थी कि नहीं.
But they were looking for symbols of power to eliminate.
You see, मैंने जैसे आपको पहले कहा है कि militants जो है ना एक छोटे से इंसिडेंट से दे क्रिएट ए 1000 times more disturbance and turmoil than their actual strength. Killing of chief of army staff, look at the kind of I mean it makes international news and the militants survive on propaganda.
But they must have done obviously very well.
No, look at their
Assassination of the prime minister.
Assassination of prime minister, yes. And till today, we do not know whether those individuals were just acting of their own because of whatever reasons of faith or any out of anger.
Yes.
Or was there some organized plan? Were there foreign forces behind it? You see.
But they were working in tandem, obviously.
No, 2 or 3 of them were working in tandem, though were part of our security
Bodyguards
establishment.
जो थे.
But the point is, did they do this of their own? Or were there certain forces, foreign forces, or within the country some forces,
उनको prop up
who used them to do this act?
What do you believe, sir?
I don't know. Unless you know the facts, how can I make an opinion on that?
It could have been
But-
pure revenge also, sir.
No, it could have been. It probably was in revenge. But then you can, these kind of high value targets, if I may use that expression, you have to inquire into the linkages, how these things happen.
Yeah. And that opens the door for controversy theories.
Yes.
So we...
Till to my knowledge, we do not know for certain, who were the forces, if there were any, beyond these 2-3 individuals.
Right. So sir, moving beyond the immediate aftermath.
जी
10 साल तक तो सर बहुत मिलिटेंसी रही और बहुत डिस्टर्बेंस रही
जी
सर, पर ये खालिस्तान वाला जो बीज एक बारी सो कर दिया गया, ये अभी तक सर तंग करता है और अभी ख़त्म तो हुआ नहीं है. इट माइट बी अ माइनॉरिटी बट इट स्टिल परसिस्ट्स. एंड वी हैव इन द करंट टाइम्स 2 different things or sources from which we hear the word Khalistan. One is जो domestic leaders हैं, and one of them is of course अमृतपाल सिंह, and that बहुत similarities हैं इनमें और जो पहले भिंद्रवाला का वो होता था, the plank and the expression that he used to use. And then the second part is the diaspora, जहाँ से खालिस्तान की आवाज़ बार बार सुनने में आती है. So do you think इनके पीछे एक genuine motive है, ये एक्चुअली में खालिस्तान चाहते हैं कि इनको कोई यूज़ कर रहा है एक प्रोपेगेंडा फैलाने के लिए, विच इज़ प्रॉबेबली द ISI?
देखिए ऐसे है कि जो फॉरेन बेस्ड है लोग जो हैं वो तो 100% दे आर फंडेड एंड स्पॉन्सर्ड बाय फॉरेन पावर्स. विद इन पंजाब देयर इज नो डिमांड फॉर खालिस्तान and their number you may not be if you start counting on your finger जो है you may not go beyond 2 fingers. अब इसमें एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल इशू आ जाता है. देयर आर सुप्रीम कोर्ट डिसीजंस कि merely asking for खालिस्तान is no offense. It becomes part of the freedom of speech and expression under Article 19, provided it is not accompanied by any violent or secessionist act. जो है इसको जो है various leaders have been using it. सिमरनजीत सिंह मान थे पहले, he was an IPS officer. वो अब भी for example he is a member of parliament. He has been member of parliament before. आउटगोइंग पार्लियामेंट में थे वो जो है. अब अमृतपाल है मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट. नो बोथ सिमरनजीत मान एंड अमृतपाल हैव स्वर्न एलिजेंस टू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. इलेक्शन लड़ने से पहले हो, जब ओथ लेते हो पार्लियामेंट की तब भी है. बट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एज पार्ट ऑफ द फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, both of them, even Simranjit Singh Maan, even today talks of Khalistan. Amritpal, I would say about Maan in retrospect, if you look at it, he has merely used it as a plank to enter politics. Amritpal का भी यही लग रहा है कि he has to gain, someone who's a lorry driver in Dubai, a clean-shaven boy, suddenly appears from nowhere with no background, no organization,
Making all the right noises.
all kind of. No, he has used this Khalistan demand, जो है, as I think as a foothold to get funding, to get some kind of a support from a fringe element of radicals and fundamentalists. But he has sworn allegiance to the Constitution of India. Once he comes out, what strategy he adopts, because obviously his objective is to gain power.
Yes. But sir, one question which automatically comes to mind. He's become MP. जेल के अंदर से he has been able to win elections.
Yeah.
तो सर अगर इतनी माइनॉरिटी है और खालिस्तान लोगों को चाहिए ही नहीं जेन्युइनली, हाउ इज ही विनिंग?
देखिए ऐसे है, देर इज ए स्मॉल पॉकेट ऑफ पंजाब, Tarn belt, which has traditionally, sported radicalism. जो है, Simranjit Singh Maan also won from there. Now Amritpal has won from the same area. I wouldn't say they are supporting Khalistan, जो है, because after all they are voting for Indian Parliament. They are not, जो है.
Right.
But yes, there is an element of fundamentalism there, radicalism there, which lends its weight or voice to these kind of elements to get enter parliament.
Sir, when you hear about the word Udta Punjab, what comes to your mind?
देखिए ऐसे है, ड्रग प्रॉब्लम इज सीरियस, दैट गोज विदाउट सेइंग. इट इज being addressed, but not, I would say, the way it ought to be. What one has to understand is that drug problem is an international problem today. There are drug mafia cartels, Once we sealed the border with Pakistan kind of drugged Punjab, let me put it this way, using the Punjab border.
Pakistan drugged Punjab, yeah.
Up it is coming through the sea route. You hear Gujarat से कितनी पकड़ी गई, अभी दिल्ली में भी कल परसों ही न्यूज़ थी,
560 किलो कोकेन पकड़े,
कई हजार, 100 करोड़ के 1000 करोड़ की पकड़ी गई जो है. जिस एरिया में ड्रग्स प्रॉब्लम आ जाए, it doesn't get localized, it spreads further. In fact, today it is spreading to Himachal and Haryana. Many parts of Haryana are also very seriously affected. तो ड्रग प्रॉब्लम एक तो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर एनफोर्समेंट की है, you see, you have to enforce it. Secondly, you have to also create greater social awareness, create more positive employment opportunities for the people, so that they do not drift into these kind of issues or petty crimes. But the problem is there and it needs to be addressed very seriously.
Sir, I want to ask you a few just rapid fire type questions.
Please go ahead.
So as to just gauge in a snapshot.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Your impression of where the country is going, where it has been.
No, India is doing very well. Internationally, today we are a force to reckon with. You see, the entire world has recognized that, and I would say the entire world looks to India for partnership. You see. So we have a great future. But as I said earlier, two issues have to be addressed: the democratic values, and secondly, I would say, the disparities between the richest and the poor. These need to be addressed. Feeding people is one part by giving subsidized rations, but subsidies should target in building capacities, so that these people who are on the margins, they become capable of, skillful enough, to earn for themselves and also contribute to the economy.
Sir, if I may ask you a series of spectrums on which I just want your opinion whether we are going up or down.
Okay.
So the answer can either be up or down,
Okay.
or neutral perhaps.
All right.
Democracy, up or down?
No, democracy, we are a thriving democracy in terms of, you see the voting, recent voting in J&K, I mean, there's a tremendous, participation of the people, percentage of votes has increased.
So it's up.
Institutionally, we are a thriving democracy.
Got it.
But in terms of values, as I said, that area needs to be addressed.
Right. Sir, would you say secularism, up or down?
Well, there are issues, but we are a secular society, and the fact that some people talk about those issues by itself means that we are a free society.
Okay. Freedom of speech.
Good. Freedom of speech, I mean, the way we have talked, for example, I think we have criticized almost everyone.
Yes.
So freedom of speech is there, yes.
Okay. Law and order.
Pockets of India, have problems, but by and large, yes.
It's a upward tick.
Yes. Law enforcement is good.
Okay. International image you already said is up.
Oh, great image.
Great image.
Great image.
Moral structure of Indians.
Well, that always was a problem. And it is a problem even today, I would say.
So that's a down.
Well, probably it is, we are at the same level. It is only that because economic activities have increased, social activities have increased, that may be the reason that we get the impression that there is a decline in moral values. You know, moral values, word morality by itself is a very flexible word. It depends on what your perception is and how you interpret it, you know. So, with modernization, very often you tend to see that there is a decline of morals, you know. But modernization itself brings its own new morality.
Right. What about cultural Indian values? हमारा
देखिए वो ट्रांजिशन है. Let's be very clear about one thing. Industrialization breeds same iconic cultural values. You see, no country can resist it. आप पता नहीं जापान कभी गए हो कि नहीं. अब जापान का हमारा इमेज है those sliding roofs and you know that typical dress. You will not find those buildings there. You will not find that dress there. Today you are eating chow mein and you know Thai food here, and your pakoras are being sold by Marks and Spencer in London. So culture is a evolving process. You see,
Okay.
it is not a static. It's a dynamic concept.
Okay.
Industrialization will reduce space and time and try and generate. I am using the word try. Subconscious process. The same type of individuals, whether you are here or in London.
Okay. So then the second last one is the unity and integrity of the country. More or
No, we are positively far more unified today. You see these few pockets of divisiveness, like Northeast, we had so many movements. Punjab, we had trouble. You know, they have died down over a period of time. We are far more integrated today as a nation as ever before.
quality of civil services, civil servants.
देखिए मैं ये कहूँगा कि you know again it depends on how you view it. Today's civil servants are far brighter than my generation. They have a greater skill level, they have greater exposure, they have greater knowledge जो है. Now how a particular administrative structure uses that knowledge and that experience, it's up to you. I mean, I have no hesitation in saying हमारे तरफ टाइम पे क्या था कि हिस्ट्री की एमए की है जी, फर्स्ट क्लास फर्स्ट है जी, ये पॉलिटिकल साइंस सोशियोलॉजी की करके आ गया जी जो है. टुडे यू सी द काइंड ऑफ बॉयज हु आर गेटिंग यार आईआईटी टॉपर्स, यू नो मेडिकल आईआईएम का टॉपर है जो है. हाउ knowledgeable, how skillful they are, but if you don't use them properly, it's your loss.
Right. Sir, one final question I have. And the idea of this podcast is to bring forth something that school and colleges fail to teach or cannot teach. Some things which may be from experience, and there are some truths जो सिर्फ हम जानते हैं, which we know that we know, but the world doesn't know or doesn't agree with. What is it that you think should be included in the syllabus of life that school and colleges do not teach?
Well, I would say, you know, things like moral values and culture, वो तो these are subject of interpretation, depend करता है. The school and colleges जो हैं, वो they don't equip you enough to face life. You see, if you are IIT graduate, they will give you that capsule knowledge of your discipline. But how to cope with life, how to cope with the challenges, probably that is, I mean, I'm not competent to comment because I do not know what kind of education system today exists in colleges. I'm outdated. जो है. But I do feel that because life is extremely competitive, survival of the fittest, you know, it's a ruthless society, ruthless world, people fall by the margins. So equipping them to face life, how to deal with those situations, I don't know if the colleges are, you know, imparting that education. That is very important to build you as a competitive individual.
Hopefully, sir, with your presence, and with people like you, because आपकी generation है sir, you set the bar very high, I must say, and that I can say after having read the book, and only I can only imagine what all you must have experienced. That this is what you experienced in one of your postings, and you must have had several.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, sir, for
No,
coming.
thank you very much for your penetrating questions.
Sir, for coming from you, sir, that means I must be on the right track.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.